Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles.
My informant had nailed it. Ethan Caro was indeed at the hotel, sitting on the far side of the room, away from the bar. I led the way to a table nearby, ordering drinks for the three of us when the waitress came by. After letting a few minutes pass, I stood up and casually walked over to him, smiling as our eyes met. "Hi, I'm Jake Waverly. Are you alone tonight? I was hoping you could do me a huge favor. My two female colleagues love to dance, but there's only one of me, and I'm not as young as I used to be. They hate being constantly hit on by guys with ulterior motives, and you seem like the decent type. Could you help me out and join us?" He hesitated, mentioning that he was married. But as planned, Maya came up and sweetened the deal with a bit of charm. As I'd suspected, he couldn't say no to a pretty woman asking politely. He agreed and followed me back to the table, where I introduced him to Alyssa. The band started playing, and Maya wasted no time taking him out onto the dance floor. Alyssa and I followed, and after a couple of dances, the girls switched partners. "So, what do you think, Maya?" I asked. Not the best answer, but he'll do. A little unsure of himself, but we can work on that. As you said, he's here all week for that training course. I gave him the cover story about us manning a booth at the conference center. I bought another round of drinks when we all sat down for a while. We kept it friendly and talked cars and sport. Then the girls got tappy feet again, so we went onto the floor for another half hour, having a third drink when the band took a break. The ladies excused themselves to go restroom together, and I turned to Ethan. "Thanks for helping me out here. I sure appreciate it." The girls only agreed to come along and work on the stand if I made sure they got some dancing every night. They've been to exhibitions in the past where they've had 6 straight nights of sitting in their rooms doing paperwork or watching TV, and they insisted that they weren't going to do that again. "You have to travel much in your line of work?" "No, this is the first week-long trip since I got married." "That reminds me. I better call my wife and tell her I'm here and settled in at the hotel, okay?" I smiled at him. "How long have you been married?" "Just over 6 months. Word of advice from an older friend, Ethan. I know, and the girls know, that you're just being kind and neighborly dancing with them to help keep the wolves away. Your wife might not see it quite like that. Just tell her that you're having a couple of beers with the salesman you met, and then you're going to turn in." He nodded. She did seem anxious about me being away on my own, staying in a hotel for a week. She's right to be suspicious. There are a lot of people who play away when they're on business trips. You'd be surprised how many married women aren't wearing their wedding rings. Alyssa and Maya are both genuinely single, and I'm sure glad we found you for them to dance with, rather than some sleazeball sex hound with a wife and 4 kids back in Chicago. Anyway, you go make that call to your lovely wife. Can I get you another beer for when you get back? Please. He headed off for the foyer. The 2 girls returned to the table. "He's gone to call Harper. You two going to slow dance with him tonight?" "Yeah, but we're not going to push it. I'd say we go for it tomorrow, then we'll have at least 4 nights. Okay by me. Beer or wine?" "Beer. This is thirsty work." Ethan returned 10 minutes later. The band was back, and he only had time for a swift chug at his beer before Alyssa dragged him away from the table. By 10 o'clock, he'd slow danced with both of them, and they had reported to me that he was without doubt rampantly heterosexual. They had that effect on a man. Maya and Alyssa announced that they were off to bed. They both kissed him and thanked him for the drinks and dancing and went off. I stayed chatting to him for another 10 minutes, and then pleaded preparation work for the morning and headed upstairs. He was a real nice guy. He would have made a great son-in-law. Shame about the woman he was married to. I unlocked my room and slipped the catch on the internal door to the adjoining room. Alyssa heard me and stuck her head round. "Can we join you? Be my guests." They were both dressed in bathrobes. When I got out of the shower, they were in my bed and padding the space between them. Why would I refuse the offer? When they were done with me, we cuddled and talked for a while afterwards, discussing what we would do the next day. There were plenty of places to see, and they'd done some research on what interested them. I set the alarm for 6:30, and we were showered and down for breakfast at 7:15. Ethan was already sitting at a table, so Maya asked if we could join him. He chatted away happily and said he was looking forward to our company that evening. We took a city tour bus in the morning, lunched at a pancake house, and spent the afternoon in the hotel pool and fitness center. Ethan was in the dining room when we went down for supper at 6:30. Alyssa took the chair next to him and Maya went opposite. We made up some lies about the exhibition hall and the convention. He told us about his training course. After the meal, he went up to his room to check in with his wife. We headed for the bar and the dance floor, and he joined us a quarter of an hour later. Fast forward 5 beers and some real close slow dancing, and Ethan was on 7th heaven as Alyssa rubbed herself into him. He made no objection as she took him up to their room. Maya and I had another few dances before going up to mine. Alyssa came through and woke us at 5 Tuesday morning when Ethan left her bed to go back to his room. She told us that he'd been very enthusiastic. We had breakfast with him as a quartet again. After he left for his course, Alyssa said that she'd be having a power nap after lunch. We went sightseeing again, had lunch out, and then all crashed for a couple of hours. Maya took Ethan up to her room straight after we'd eaten supper. Alyssa and I danced a bit until she joined them an hour later, and I had a quiet night reading in my room, apart from the passionate noises still audible through the closed connecting door. Wednesday morning, I was already at the breakfast table when a freshly showered Ethan joined me, closely followed by the two women. He looked pretty good considering he'd had such a hard night. Maya and Alyssa were just grinning. There was more sightseeing and window shopping during the day, and a lazy afternoon around the pool. After we ate, just as soon as Ethan had gotten his evening call to Harper out of the way, we made up a foursome in my room. It was the first time that I'd had sex since before I'd confronted Lana and ended our marriage, so about 5 years. I had a great time. The girls were out to impress, and I was really glad of my little blue pill. Alyssa still had the energy left to ride Ethan in the morning, and we even made it to breakfast on time. Thursday and Friday were pretty much the same. I gave the girls some cash for a bit of shopping, reminding them that they'd have to carry whatever they bought in their luggage, and I wandered around the City Art Gallery and Museum to use up the time. Ethan wasn't flying back until Saturday morning. His company was too tight to pay the Friday evening higher fares. I even gave him one of my blue pills when he was slowing down. Once that took effect, he was the Duracell bunny. We all wished him well when he staggered off after breakfast. He'd learned a whole lot about women that week. I guess that Harper would feel the benefit of a more experienced partner, but we did advise him not to try too many new moves at once, so she wouldn't get suspicious as to where he'd learned a trick or two. Once he'd left for the airport, I went down to collect my other bag from the hotel safe. I paid Alyssa and Maya the remaining $5,000 each in cash that I'd promised them and handed over the plane tickets to Atlanta to start their lives afresh. Then I gave them their shots and talked them through being sure to take the whole course of antibiotics which would complete the cure. I did say to get themselves checked out as being clear of STIs and to do better on using condoms in future. They both intended to get proper jobs and leave the sex industry behind. I'd written each of them a recommendation to help them. They were decent girls who'd been led astray down the wrong path and discovered that it didn't pay very much at their end of the market. I prayed that their new starts would work. The cushion of money I'd given them would keep them off the streets and give them that chance to get jobs. They both kissed me real affectionately as we parted at the airport. I'd almost considered keeping one or both of them, but they were way too young for me. It just wouldn't have worked out. It was a shame. They really did know their way around a man, and they were great company too. When I got home to my small apartment in Cincinnati that afternoon, I gave myself my own shot and swallowed the first capsule of the course. After all, even having religiously used condoms when the girls and I had been alone, Wednesday through Friday nights, I'd had nearly as much chance of having gotten infected as Ethan. He wouldn't show any symptoms for at least a few days, but by then he should have passed it on to Harper. So, what do I have against Harper? Quite simple. 5 years ago, my loving wife was having an affair with a work colleague, screwing him on our marital bed on Saturday mornings while I was out taking our 15-year-old daughter to her tennis class, then to the mall, then to lunch at the food court. The recordings from my house later showed that Harper not only knew what her mother was doing while we were out, she had actually suggested to her mom that she could keep me out of the way and that it would be safer if I was with her, so I wouldn't come home early and catch Lana with her lover. At least I'd had suspicions and was able to make some preparations before Lana could react to being found out. Lana and Harper got the McMansion in the divorce. It was too bad that I'd recently taken out a $500,000 loan against the equity to buy into the medical partnership and finance an addition and some pricey diagnostic equipment we needed. Of course, when I ended up getting 30 days in jail for assaulting Lana's lover in my own bedroom, my 3 partners invoked the moral turpitude clause I'd had them put in the agreement and terminated me with cause, so the money was lost, gone way beyond her reach. Her lawyer was real pissed that he couldn't get that loan document overturned, but we'd had it notarized and registered, and he couldn't do anything. When I got my license back again, I started working for the city as a salaried doctor in the public health department, earning enough for a single guy, but not enough for any great alimony demand. That upset him too. I couldn't afford to pay his fees in one go either, so he took a hit there. My lawyer said he got real pleasure out of telling the other guy that I'd paid him up front. The assault got me something else in the way of revenge as well. The lover's wife found out exactly why I'd blackened his eye and bruised his nuts. Using his own cell, I'd called her and told her before the police arrived. She took him to the cleaners in their divorce, and he blamed Lana for my finding out. When I'd done my time, and my attorney and a police officer walked me round what had been our home so that I could collect my personal belongings. Lana had already thrown out all the photographs that included me in them. I guess that meant she didn't want to reconcile, and I took our depleted wedding and new baby albums as consolation, filing them in the first dumpster I passed on the way to my new lodging. It had been bad enough knowing that my wife was being unfaithful. Discovering that our daughter was aiding and abetting my betrayal nearly tipped me over the edge. For years, I'd worked extra hours to buy my two women whatever they wanted. Harper had always been given everything she ever asked for. She had rewarded my fatherly love and devotion with treachery. Paying child support for the little brat for the next 2.5 years had stung my pride, which is why when my lawyer asked about visitation, I told him I didn't want to see her again. As far as I was concerned, she was no longer related to me, although I was determined that one day she would get to appreciate for herself the pain of having your spouse cheat on you. Harper and Lana had fallen out when they had to sell the house before it got foreclosed, and suddenly there was no spare money. Harper's standard of living suddenly dropped 90 points. Daddy's credit cards had been canceled, so couldn't be taken shopping at the mall. The tennis class was history. Lana's leased Lexus had to go back. Harper didn't get a car when she reached 16. She did quickly work out that if her mother hadn't cheated on me, then she'd have kept her comfortable lifestyle. Naturally, she plumb forgot her part in helping her mother to cheat on me. They weren't such bosom buddies after that. It had been no surprise to me that Harper had pretty much accepted the first guy with a job who asked her to marry him. His name was Ethan Caro. No, I'd never met him. I wouldn't have accepted an invitation to Harper's wedding, even if I'd been on her guest list. I did send a friend to take some photographs, though, so I'd know him even if he didn't know me. Now I'd spent some time with the guy. I found I liked him. He was far too good for my daughter, though. I felt no guilt at trying to sabotage their marriage. There was no guarantee that Ethan would continue to seek other female company whenever he got the chance, but we'd certainly given him a great taste of what was available away from home, and I was sure that I'd planted a seed in fertile ground, so he'd be looking for opportunities. With only a modicum of luck, the multiple exposures to Alyssa's gonorrhea and Maya's chlamydia would have been more than enough to ensure that he already had some special souvenir gift to pass on to his wife. I'd have one of my public health contacts make sure that Ethan got some treatment at the end of the week, hopefully a booster shot from the nurse at his work, without him ever discovering that he was infected. I just hoped that I'd be on duty at the STI clinic the day Harper came in to be tested. That would be the icing on the cake for me, making it out to be her fault, demanding the details of all her sexual partners, and sending the letters to them and their spouses. Ethan, of course, would get one of the first letters, test negative, guess who signs the test reports, and have a slam-dunk no alimony divorce. Why was I so convinced that Harper was already cheating on Ethan? I had no evidence yet, but I strongly suspected it was going to be a case of like mother, like daughter. Her behavior at her bachelorette party showed very well that, with a week to go until her wedding day, she hadn't yet forsaken all others. Harper knew from her mother how easy it was to take a lover. Too bad if she didn't yet fully appreciate the downside. That reminded me, I needed to make sure I sent Ethan's divorce lawyer the photos and tapes at the appropriate time. Was it all going to be worth nearly 20 grand of the money I'd hidden in the divorce? If it worked, hell yes. Besides, my 3 ex-partners would each continue to hand over $1,000 a month in cash until I'd received back from them all $500,000 of my interest-free loan. That was the unwritten deal we'd shaken on when I found out about Lana. Okay, at only $36,000 a year, I was going to be another 13 years older by the time the debt was repaid. But I wasn't exactly hurting for money, and what else would I do with it? I hope that by giving Alyssa and Maya their new starts in life, I've done a good deed or two. Come to think of it, one of my receptionists is a young widow with a small daughter, and I just might set her up a date with Ethan once he's free again. Now, how to get some more revenge on Lana and her lover. Those are projects for the coming winter. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.